So in this video, I'm going to talk about how prepositional phrases can be used as complements. And by complement, all that I mean, and I'll go ahead and circle this, is it means that it would be essential to the sentence. Um, and that additionally means within the like basically subject or predicate branch if we're doing a form function tree. So before we jump into complements, particularly complements of predicates, I want to do a quick reminder of how prepositional phrases can function as modifiers of noun phrases. So again, kind of essential components just within, um, I'm going to write here within subject or predicate branch. Here it's within the subject branch. If you have a direct object, it could be within the predicate branch of the tree as well. So one of the knives from his baldric was missing. We have two prepositional phrases herein. Both of them modify nouns. So from modifies knives, right? Of modifies one. So in both instances, we have modification that's going on. So let's take a look. One is going to be a pronoun, right? So that is going to be our noun phrase. So we're going to start there and then we're going to continue. Of is a preposition, right? So if we have a preposition, we know we're going to have a prepositional phrase. The is a definite article. Knives is a noun, so that means that we have a noun phrase, and that's important. Usually a prepositional phrase will be a preposition followed by a noun phrase. But then we have from, which is another preposition, so another prepositional phrase. His is a possessive pronoun, and baldric is a noun, so we have another noun phrase. So here, right, you'll notice that we have one prepositional phrase within or attached to a noun phrase, and then another prepositional phrase that's attached to a noun phrase. And it's because those are the phrases that are being modified. So that's what those branches show. Was missing is our verb, so it's a verb phrase. And so this is where our predicate phrase happens. And so we'll leave it at that. What I want to go ahead and do then is I want to take a look at then the function of these words. So one in this sentence is going to be the subject, right? It's the occasion for the sentence. Of the knives from his baldric is going to further define that subject, but it is unquestionably the subject. And then we know was missing is our predicate because it's within our predicate phrase branch. So let's talk about the rest. Of we know is a preposition, but here it modifies one, right? The is a determiner. Knives is a head word. It's also the object of a preposition, right? The knives, the full noun phrase, is the object of the preposition of. And all of it, right, modifies one. So it is functioning like an adjective. From modifies knives. We can tell from where the branches connect. His functions like a determiner. Baldric, once again, we have a head word, an object of the preposition. His baldric is an object of the preposition, and all of it modifies knives. So when we're talking about a prepositional phrase functioning like an adjunct, or sorry, not an adjunct, like an adjective, and an adjectival kind of complement at that, right? It's within the subject tree. This is what we're looking at. Those prepositions function like modifiers, so they function like adjectives. They are an essential kind of component of the sentence in that way because they provide additional information. For the purpose purposes of this video, we're going to be talking about adverbial complements, and what it means to have a complement. I will be abbreviating adverbial complement as AC. So one of the important things to be aware of when we're talking about adverbial complements is that they are not mobile. So unlike adjuncts, where they can appear at the beginning or the ends of sentences, adverbial complements are not mobile. Even if you look above, one of the knives from his baldric was missing. We couldn't say one of the knives, well, I mean, we kind of could. One of the knives was missing from his baldric, but one from his baldric was missing of the knives would be really weird. So it is important to kind of be aware of and to think about what it would mean to move prepositional phrases, because that will help us to determine how essential they are to the sentence itself. So an adverbial complement is not mobile. It also complements the predicate. Okay. And so that means that it is part of the predicate phrase. And so it would be part then of the predicate phrase branches. So that's also part of what we'll be thinking about as we kind of map them. Now, there are two common types of adverbial complements that you will see. And one of them has to do with prepositional verbs, and one of them with phrasal verbs. Okay, so we're going to look a little bit more closely at each of these two types, starting with prepositional verbs. Now, I guarantee you have used a prepositional verb before. A prepositional verb is going to be a verb that is followed by a preposition. And specifically, it's followed by a non-mobile preposition. Okay. That means that the preposition itself cannot be moved. The other thing with prepositional verbs is that you cannot substitute a single word for the verb plus preposition. Okay. And especially as we get to phrasal verbs, this will make a little bit more sense. What I will do is I'm gonna show you what I mean by each of these really quickly here. So in terms of being followed by a non-mobile preposition, if you look at the sentence below, blood oozed from the velvety stumps. We would not be able to say blood oozed the velvety stumps from, right? That just doesn't work, which means that that preposition is not mobile. Similarly, we can't substitute a single word for oozed from. I could try, for instance, like flowed, right? Flowing is similar to oozing, but I wouldn't say blood flowed the velvety stumps, right? Um, it would just sound weird. It's missing that preposition. We would need that preposition there still. And so those are two ways to test to see whether or not you're dealing with a prepositional verb. In this case, oozed from is going to be a prepositional verb. And I want to show you what that's going to look like in terms of diagramming it. So blood, no surprise, is a noun. So it's a noun phrase, right? And so it's forming the subject kind of predicate split branch, which means that over here we are going to have our predicate phrase, right? Or that branch of our diagram or our form function trees. Oozed is going to be our verb, so it's our verb phrase. From is a preposition, and if we have a preposition, it means we're going to have a prepositional phrase. The is a definite article. Velvety is an adjective. Stumps is a noun, so we're going to have a noun phrase here. So that tells me all that I need to know in terms of the form. So let's talk a little bit about the functions. Blood is our subject, oozed is our predicate. Right? From here functions as an adverbial complement. That means that it is essential or attached to our predicate. The functions like a determiner. Velvety modifies stumps. Right? Stumps is the head word of our noun phrase. It's the object of the preposition. The velvety stumps, the whole thing is the object of the preposition. And from the velvety stumps, the whole thing is an adverbial complement. But it is specifically an adverbial complement that relies on a prepositional verb. Okay. So this is how you can tell. Phrasal verbs, which we're going to talk about next, are a little bit different from prepositional verbs. So the things that kind of define phrasal verbs, first off, is that they are more often than not followed by a mobile preposition. Okay. Additionally, they can be substituted with a single word. And it's important to note that there are some inseparable phrasal verbs, um, which are just treated like prepositional verbs. Okay. The only thing that will distinguish inseparable phrasal verbs from prepositional verbs is that you can replace them with a single word. Okay. So let's take a look at this. She'd sawed his wings off. Okay. So first off, it's followed by a mobile preposition. We know this because we could say she'd sawed off his wings, right? And the sentence still makes sense. So off can be moved. Similarly, it can be substituted with a single word. She'd removed his wings, right? That makes sense still. So that tells you that what we're dealing with is a phrasal verb rather than a prepositional verb. So let's go ahead then and explore how we might diagram it. So we have our S for our sentence, which is going to kind of indicate where our subject and predicate split. She is a pronoun. It's going to be our noun phrase, right? Apostrophe D for had, sawed. So together, they're going to be our verb and verb phrase. So over here, then we have our predicate phrase. Okay. His wings. So we have a possessive pronoun and a noun, which means we have a noun phrase. And then off, we have a preposition, and that is going to be a prepositional phrase all on its own. So let's go ahead then and talk about the function of these words. She in this is going to be our subject. Apostrophe D sawed will be our predicate, right? His is a determiner, wings is the head word. They're what are being sawed off, so that means they're our direct object. And then off, because it's so essential to sawed, right? Like it's not just that she sawed them off. She removed them. It is going to be an adverbial complement, but in this case, it is a phrasal verb. Okay. So the key thing to be aware of when we're looking at prepositional phrases. In this instance, we could say she'd sawed off his wings, but off his wings is not a prepositional phrase on its own. His wings is a direct object. Off is a prepositional phrase on its own that is essential to the predicate sawed. So it functions a little bit differently from the adverbial complement above when we're dealing with a prepositional verb where from the velvety stumps is inseparable from each other, right?